She thought she'd have one night, but a miraculous surprise revealed a new life awaits. Sarah stepped into the art gallery, a world away from the grease-smeared confines of the diner and the echoing aisles of the grocery store. The soft glow of the lights shimmered against polished floors, a stark contrast to her worn sneakers and the exhaustion etching lines on her face. Deep down, she yearned for a moment of connection, yet the laughter swirling around her felt like a distant melody. The thought of being more than just a server and stock girl felt frivolous, yet here she was, hoping for a reprieve from her relentless routine. The air hummed with energy, and Sarah's heart raced, brimming with both excitement and anxiety. Was this an escape or a tease of something unreachable? She wandered aimlessly, the clinking glasses and playful banter overwhelming her senses. A memory sparked faintly, a mother's promise of creativity and expression that now felt like a mirage. How could she, a weary single mom, dare to dream? Suddenly, she stumbled upon an elderly woman with piercing blue eyes studying a canvas with fervor. "You've got a gift, dear," the woman whispered, as Sarah caught her gaze, an unexpected weight in her words. The clarity of Margaret's presence enveloped Sarah, stirring something deep within her that she thought long extinguished. Could it be true, that the girl who once sketched on the backs of notebooks might possess an unclaimed legacy? Fear gripped her, mingling with a flare of excitement. What if she had inherited more than just the burden of motherhood? The revelations flowed as Margaret divulged stories of a father, an artist with tangled past who sought beauty amidst chaos. With each word, Sarah felt herself sinking deeper into a whirlpool of conflicting emotions. The pulse of the gallery faded, far eclipsed by the weight of her father's unseen legacy. An art studio, left untouched, brimming with the colors of dreams unrealized. Could she really embrace this? Or would it shatter the delicate security she had crafted for Lily? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Caught between dreams and responsibilities, panic set in. Every step felt like an encroaching risk for the life she fought tirelessly to build. What if indulging this part of herself caused them to tumble into uncertainty? The laughter around her swirled into a haunting reminder of what she might lose: security, routine, and the simple happiness of her daughter. A flood of desperation surged within, the struggle to carve out an identity clashing violently with the instinct to hold what she had so tightly. As the evening wore on, Sarah's resolve fractured, charged with the pressing urgency of a decision that could alter the trajectory of their lives. Her pulse quickened at the thought of forging an artistic path, yet dread pooled in her stomach at the potential fallout. For every moment of inspiration, shadowed reminders of her day-to-day grind lingered, each choice unbearable, the lines of her reality blurring further. She wanted freedom, but the path was shrouded in uncertainty, as a familiar face from her past emerged beside her. Unseen connections conjured hope, yet fear gripped her tighter. All around, amidst the giggles and lightheartedness, the weight of her potential choices loomed larger than ever. Could stepping into the unknown offer salvation? Or would it unravel the fragile life she fought to maintain? As the possibility of transformation hung in the air, yet again faced with the indecision of stepping forward or retreating, Sarah's heart thundered with a chaotic rhythm, leaving her stranded at the intersection of fear and hope. A swell of noise receded momentarily as Sarah absorbed Margaret's gaze, the probing eyes digging beneath her defenses. This woman, with her compelling aura, had ignited something long buried, yet frighteningly close to her heart. In that concentrated silence, the art studio came to life in her mind. Brushes dipped in vibrant colors, canvases stretched out like promises waiting to be fulfilled. It was a space that whispered potential, but also a reminder of every sacrifice she made for Lily. She began to question the choices that had led her to this moment. Was she truly content with her role, or had she descended into comfort so deep that she had forgotten the echo of her own desires? The dissonance of laughter and chatter faded into background noise, and in its place, Margaret's quiet affirmation resonated louder. "What if you pursued it? Margaret encouraged gently, sensing Sarah's turmoil. "Your father saw beauty everywhere. Perhaps you've inherited more than just his blood. You may have his vision." The suggestion burrowed under Sarah's skin, an itch she couldn't scratch away. Pursue it? The very notion felt audacious, like strapping on wings that had been clipped for too long. The faces of her co-workers flashed before her. It wouldn't be long before they'd all discover her dreams. A server turned artist. The whispers would circulate as they tended to their own ordinary lives, untouched by such ambition. A moment later, she felt Margaret's hand squeeze her arm. "You have a gift, Sarah. You owe it to yourself to explore it." That simple encouragement unleashed a torrent of questions. What would pursuing her passion mean for Lily? Would they have to give up their home, their security? Would her love for art, rooted in distant memories of her father, overshadow her devotion to motherhood? Margaret must have seen the storm brewing in Sarah's eyes, for she continued, "Pursuing your craft doesn't negate your role as a mother. Think of it as expanding your world rather than abandoning it." The older woman's words stirred something dormant inside. The overwhelming chaos of her responsibilities revealed a hidden need. She could be both the mother who nurtured her daughter's life and the artist who nurtured her own spirit. Yet the duality felt treacherous. As the gallery's ambiance shifted, the energy transformed with new arrivals. Still rooted in uncertainty, Sarah withdrew into herself, yearning for clarity but also for silence amidst the excitement. She leaned against the wall, feeling its cold hardness stabilize her wavering thoughts, grounding her as reality blurred. Lily's bright laughter echoed in her mind, a tether to the life she cherished. Her commitment to her daughter was boundless, an anchor that defined her. Yet, was it fair to tether her own dreams to ensure that security? Could she truly embrace both worlds without sacrificing one for the other? Margaret's whisper cut through the fog. "Sarah, sometimes it's in the pursuit of our dreams that we discover our true selves. The moment you find your voice, you'll not only inspire yourself but the very life you cherish." A flash of resolution surged through her as she promised herself that she would explore her father's legacy, a legacy intertwined with her own essence. But was she ready to walk into that studio, to sift through untouched canvases filled with potential? With her heart pounding, Sarah straightened, determined to confront what lay ahead. The chase for identity had begun, yet the turbulence remained. Would she embrace it boldly, or would she shrink back into the shadows of her prior limitations? Before she could spiral further, a new voice called her name. It was Mark, an old acquaintance from high school who had once aspired to be an artist himself, now a gallery owner. A connection resurfacing amidst her turmoil, he approached with curiosity that suddenly felt both exhilarating and daunting. "Hey Sarah, it's been ages. Have you thought about showcasing your work?" And just like that, the dance between fear and opportunity surged again at her doorstep. With possibilities opening wide, all Sarah felt was the gaping question, was she truly ready to reveal her hidden gift? Mark's bright smile drew Sarah back to the present moment, yet it was also an unwelcome reminder of her ambivalence. He was a successful gallery owner now, his ambitious trajectory contrasting sharply with the uncertainty she felt within herself. As he spoke, his enthusiasm shimmered around her like a delicate web, intriguing yet ensnaring. "Seriously, Sarah, you should think about it. I remember your drawings from high school. They had something special," he said, genuine admiration in his voice. A wave of memories washed over her. Doodles sketched in the margins of textbooks, half-finished portraits tucked away in assertive silence, evidence of a passion that had long been dormant. Could she actually leverage those moments, reawaken old skills, and explore the uncharted territory of her aspirations? "I'll think about it," she replied, the words tasting bittersweet on her tongue. They both knew she was pretending to consider it. "But you know, I have a full-time job and—" Mark tilted his head quizzically, interrupting her hesitation. "You're more than that, Sarah. You have talent. We can set up a small showcase, just a few pieces. It could be your springboard." The thought tingled, yet dread flooded her chest. What if her art flopped? What if she was not good enough? Questions ricocheted through her mind like erratic bullets, in direct opposition to the spark of inspiration that began to bloom. "Mark, I wouldn't even know where to start. she confessed, vulnerability creeping into her tone. Just start, he encouraged, undeterred. Pick a night, meet me at the gallery, and I'll help you through it. You need to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. His faith was encouraging, yet felt like an immense weight pressing down on her. How could she embrace this moment of opportunity without risking everything she cherished? With Lily to think of, every decision bore a broader consequence. Yet, as she stood contemplating, a subtle shift occurred within her, a reawakening. She envisioned her art, scantily painted but full of raw emotion, displayed for others to see. The mingling of fear and excitement felt intoxicating, like mixing the brightest colors on a palette. Perhaps this could be a path where both motherhood and artistry could coexist harmoniously. "I'll do it," she blurted out unexpectedly, determination slicing through her uncertainty. "Let's set a date." "Great!" Mark exclaimed, clapping his hands together. "I knew you had it in you." The conversation quickly turned into logistics, yet Sarah's mind drifted as his words morphed into a distant hum. She was finally stepping toward her father's legacy, toward a future that had remained hidden behind layers of caution and doubt. As the night progressed, she noticed something within herself beginning to shift. The tightening knot in her gut transformed with each agreement made, each idea tossed around. She felt a burgeoning confidence wrapped in a cocoon of relentless fears, but now it felt somewhat manageable. When Mark took his leave, Sarah lingered in the studio, now emanating fresh warmth as she observed the canvases hanging on the wall. They were mere extensions of her imagination, waiting to breathe life. Each stroke of paint held the promise of her voice, her narrative woven with brushstrokes and hues. Returning home provided no solace, only reminders of the commitments she had previously so rigidly upheld. The tantalizing idea of expressing herself through art began to ripple through her thoughts, intermingling with her responsibilities as a mother. The image of Lily's naive faith empowered her to shed apprehension. That night, Sarah sat in her modest living room, paintbrush poised in her hand, ready to make the first mark on an untouched canvas. She was poised at the edge of revelation, caught between the vast chasm of fear and desire. But the familiar sound of Lily's laughter floated from the back room, abrupt yet comforting, jolting her thoughts back. Tension hung heavy in the air. Could she bear the weight of her dreams while also being the mother her daughter deserved? Sarah's heart raced at the ultimatum she felt drearily settling around her, the grave silence of potential success interwoven with the responsibility she could never forsake. With every intention to let creativity flow, a disquiet began to seep in. Was she truly capable of balancing both worlds effectively? Suddenly, a soft tap at the door broke her reverie, stirring her heart yet again. It was Lily, clutching a half-finished drawing. "Mom, come see what I made." How dare her daughter shed light on the very conflict churning within her? Sarah stood at the intersection of inspiration and obligation, unsure of which path to follow next. As she opened the door, a new wave of uncertainty rushed through her. Was she willing to risk it all for the sake of her own dreams? The tension mounted, the choice loomed larger than life. When she opened the door, Lily stood gleaming in the soft light, eyes sparkling with the innocent pride of a child. To Sarah, it felt both like a warm embrace and a taut rope pulling her back. The image of her daughter, vibrant in her youth, reawakened a familiar echo of dreams that had been stifled. How could she stifle that light? "Look, Mom, I made a picture of you and me at the park." Lily thrust the drawing forward, and the breath caught in Sarah's throat. The sketch captured them side by side, radiant under shimmering trees, sharing laughter and sunshine. Yet what hit her harder than the child's likeness was the unmistakable intrinsic joy radiating from it. Taking the drawing, Sarah examined it closely. Lily had used bold colors and simple lines, and the essence of freedom flowed through it. Just before she could begin to reflect on her own lack of artistic ventures, the sound of laughter from the back room reminded her that life often unfolded with unpredictable spontaneity. "Can I frame it, Mom? I want to show it to everyone," Lily exclaimed, her voice bright with enthusiasm. "Of course," Sarah replied, forcing a smile despite the dichotomy swarming her thoughts. "But tell me, what about the way you drew us makes you happy?" Lily paused, a pensive look crossing her face. "Because it's us, and we're having fun. That's what matters, right? Right. The simplicity of the answer sank through Sarah, seeping into her consciousness. Suddenly she felt like one of her canvases, unpainted and potential-laden, just requiring a courageous stroke. Perhaps it was time to shed the colors of doubt and fear, to express the bonds she held dear while exploring her own creativity. "Let's put it on the wall in the studio," Sarah proposed, gesturing toward the walls adorned with memories awaiting revival. A smile spread across Lily's face, her joy igniting newfound resolve within Sarah. As they headed to the studio together, an unexpected sense of synergy began to build. The flourishing creativity of her daughter acted as motivation for Sarah. Lily was a living testament to the beauty and self-expression. What if they could explore art together? She envisioned vibrant colors spilling onto canvases, swirling around memories, connecting their shared experiences. With Lily's encouragement, Sarah felt her heart pace quicker, but for a different reason than before. This was no longer solely about her ambitions. This was about legacy, connection, coexistence, and nurturing a relationship woven through the fabric of art. Sitting on the floor of the studio, they began gathering supplies. Sarah extracted brushes she'd once thought lost to time and opened tubes of paint, the familiar smell reawakening scents attached to childhood memories. The very same sensations that had ignited her passion years ago. "Can we paint a big picture together?" Lily asked, peering up at her, full of hopeful energy. "Yes, let's do it," Sarah realized, committing openly not just to the canvas but to her belief in herself and her capabilities. However, as she dipped the brush in bright colors to form the first stroke, a flicker of anxiety crept in. What if her creations did not resonate? What if she fell short? But amidst the doubts roiling in her gut, the innocence in Lily's eyes drove her forward. The paintbrush moved instinctively, as if guided by a force of its own, slicing through fear. With each layer added to the canvas alongside her daughter, a new rhythm emerged, one of love, trust, and raw emotion. Here was Sarah, stepping back into an identity once frayed, but now stitched anew, a mother fostering the courage to nurture her own art. Yet just as the first masterpiece began to blossom before them, a tightness wrapped around Sarah's chest once more, a nearly paralyzing reminder of the life she constantly balanced. What was she willing to sacrifice to make this vision a reality? Would Lily still feel like everything was within reach if she pursued her own? As they stepped back to observe their creation, Sarah's heart raced, fueling a difficult question. Could she pursue her aspirations without losing her daughter to caretaking duties? In a rush of clarity, she realized the answer lay not in the art alone, but in weaving her journey with Lily's dreams, allowing them to flourish together. The room felt both electric and heavy, the colors intertwining on the canvas mirroring the tumult of love and fear coursing through Sarah. As they faced the painted images of themselves united in laughter, all she could think of was how to proceed. Could she expand this partnership beyond this moment into a sustainable exploration of creativity? Lily squeezed her hand, the innocent assurance threaded within their shared endeavor. Somehow, amidst the uncertainty, deep down Sarah felt the stirring of possibility. "Mom," Lily began tentatively, breaking the silence. "Yes, sweetheart? I want to show this to Grandma too. Do you think she'll like it?" In that moment, a new realization dawned on Sarah, forcing her to confront a new direction entirely. What had once been a quest for individual expression now risked becoming a journey of familial ties. "Absolutely," she said, heart floating lightly on the swell of connection. But just as they began to plan their visit, an unexpected knock interrupted, sending a ripple of tension through the air. Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. A surprise visitor could change everything. The sudden knock echoed, reverberating through the studio filled with half-finished paintings and the scent of wet paint. Sarah glanced at Lily, who looked back with a mixture of excitement and curiosity. The moment felt charged, as if the universe had conspired to shift their dynamic once more. Who could that be? Sarah wondered aloud, trying to suppress the flutter of anxiety that fluttered at the back of her mind. The thrill of creating art with her daughter was still fresh, the colors on the canvas bright, and the laughter still tingling in the air. She rose and walked cautiously toward the door. Drawing a deep breath, Sarah opened it to reveal her mother, Rebecca, standing there with a puzzled expression. "Surprise!" the older woman exclaimed, though her smile seemed to falter as she took in the vibrant chaos of the studio. "Mom?" Sarah breathed, a mix of disbelief and apprehension swirling within her. "Hi, sweetheart. I hope I'm not interrupting." Rebecca stepped inside, her eyes landing on the almost finished painting, and Sarah felt the familiar tug of judgment creep in. She hadn't seen her mother in a while, not since the schism over choices Sarah had made in her life, particularly her decision to prioritize her own happiness, away from the conventional path Rebecca had envisioned. "We were just painting," Sarah said, her voice unsteady. Lily chimed in brightly. "Look, Grandma, we made this picture of us at the park." She beamed as she pulled the canvas forward, eager to share. Sarah held her breath, watching the flicker of emotions flit across her mother's face. Pride mixed with the weight of their history, the disputes that still hung heavily on their relationship. "It's lovely, dear," Rebecca said, attempting to mask any disapproval behind a surface-level compliment, but Sarah could read between the lines. The discrepancies tugged at her heart, as unrelenting as the brushstrokes on the canvas they had just created together. Would Rebecca appreciate the artistic journey Sarah was tentatively embracing, or would it serve only to remind her of everything Sarah had stepped away from? "Let's sit," Rebecca suggested hesitantly, lowering herself into a chair with a sigh, as if fatigue had followed her through the door. "Tell me more about this project." Sarah exchanged uneasy glances with Lily, but they took their seats. Here was a chance, not just to explain her art, but to stand her ground, to assert her right to create and flourish. "I think art is important," Sarah began carefully, gathering her thoughts. "It allows me to connect with Lily while also rediscovering parts of myself I thought I lost." She could feel the weight of her transparent honesty. Rebecca's gaze softened, but was laced with skepticism. "But at what cost, Sarah? You have responsibilities, a life to manage." The reminder felt like a knot in Sarah's throat. Did pursuing passion mean neglecting her family's needs? Yet as she looked at Lily, who was completely absorbed in their artwork, a surge of conviction filled her. "I'm learning how to balance both, Mom," Sarah asserted, an edge creeping into her voice. "I want to set an example for Lily. Life is more than just responsibilities, it's about fulfillment too." Rebecca continued to observe, a flicker of pragmatism fighting against pride in her daughter's pursuits. "You're right, but where does the line fall?" That question lingered heavily in the air. It felt like a dark cloud preparing to burst. Sarah swallowed. The stakes this time felt palpably higher. "If I don't try now, how will I ever teach her to pursue what she loves?" A moment of silence passed, the air thickening with tension. Lily, sensing her mother's unrest, leaned closer, placing her small hand over Sarah's. In that gesture, Sarah found her grounding again, the warmth of trust sparking within her, pushing her to confront the revelations springing forth from her burgeoning identity. Rebecca seemed to read the resolve blooming within her daughter, and leaned back, letting the silence stretch as she weighed the implications. What had once seemed like selfishness now felt like a rediscovery, an opportunity for connection with her daughter, even if she didn't understand it completely. Just as Sarah felt a slight shift in the atmosphere, the knot of anticipation reset itself in her stomach at the sound of another knock. The urgency of this second visitor sent ripples of uncertainty through the room, setting tremors of insecurity alongside her benchmark of self-assertion. "Who else could it be?" Sarah questioned aloud, the tightening coil of apprehension reigniting. Lily's eyes sparkled with interest. "Let's go see." Equipped with the fierce determination of a mother, and possibly the dawn of a new relationship between generations, Sarah rose again, ready to face whatever came through the threshold. After all, discovery, both personal and relational, awaited just outside that door. As she prepared to open it, she couldn't help but wonder, would this next visitor help shape her artful journey, or redefine the expectations of her life once more? As Sarah reached for the doorknob, she felt Lily's small hand grip hers tighter, as if sensing the tremor of uncertainty herself. The anticipation hung thickly in the air, arousing an almost instinctual apprehension. Sarah glanced back at her mother, Rebecca, whose scrutinizing gaze seemed to drill into her thoughts. Would this unexpected visitor complicate her already fragile moment of self-discovery? With a deep breath, Sarah pulled the door open. Standing before her was a man she had not seen in years, Marcus, an old friend from college and a fellow artist. His grin was wide, but there was a spark of something deeper in his eyes. "Hey, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important," he said cheerfully, clearly unbothered by the emotional current in the room. No, not at all," Sarah replied, her voice trembling as she stepped aside to let him in. The kind of enthusiasm that had once united them in creative endeavors now felt like a dissonance amidst the familial tension that pervaded the space. "Wow, you've really turned this place into a haven," Marcus remarked, taking in the bright splashes of color and the canvases leaning against the walls. "I see you've been busy." Sarah felt a rush of pride at his acknowledgement. Despite the underlying tension with Rebecca, a sense of validation flickered momentarily. "Thanks. Lily and I have been working on a few projects." The mention of her daughter's name served as a grounding reminder of her priorities. Marcus turned, his eyes lighting on Lily, who stood beaming at the unexpected guest. "And I see you've got a little artist in training. Can I see what you've made?" Lily practically skipped over to show off their collaborative work, her innocence a stark contrast to the weight of adult conflicts swirling around Sarah. Watching them connect, Sarah felt herself retreat into reflection, dimensions of her past with Marcus looping back to the forefront of her mind. "Remember when we talked about that gallery show?" he asked, turning back to Sarah. The words brought forth a flood of emotions, those late-night discussions about ambition, art, and chasing dreams. "I still think you should put yourself out there, you know." "Yeah." The single syllable spoke volumes of fear and hesitation. She wrestled internally, questioning whether putting herself in the spotlight was worth the risk. "But have you seen my work recently? It's very personal." "Isn't that what art is supposed to be?" He leaned against the wall, his demeanor relaxed but persistent. "You should showcase what matters to you. It'll resonate with others." His encouragement struck a chord. Sarah nodded, though her mind raced with doubts. She could practically hear Rebecca's words echo in her head. But at what cost? Were these dreams just another source of conflict? Would pursuing something for herself only serve to widen the schism she was trying to heal? "Maybe you're right," she said finally, her voice gaining strength. "But I'm still learning how to navigate between my passions and responsibilities." "Those don't have to be at odds," Marcus replied. "Art can bridge that gap. It can educate, express, and even offer a legacy." The notion of legacy trailed through Sarah's thoughts, igniting a flicker of hope. In the midst of uncertainty and tension with her mother, this could be the decisive moment that affirmed her journey. But as she contemplated this transition, a nagging fear gnawed at her, the notion of failure creeping in again. Lily, oblivious to the rising stakes, showed off more artwork, her laughter ringing like a beacon through Sarah's tumultuous thoughts. A revelation dawned upon her. This wasn't just about her anymore. The artistic legacy she created for Lily could shape their relationship, ensuring the next generation embraced creativity and passion without hesitation. "Would you help me with this?" Sarah surprised herself by asking Marcus, the words flowing out before she even comprehended the full extent of their implications. "Of course, I'd be honored," he replied, genuine excitement lighting his face. Just as a new sense of direction began to take root in Sarah's mind, Rebecca cleared her throat, her eyes narrowed. "This is all very lovely," she interjected, "but don't forget about the practicalities of life." The gravity of her mother's response anchored Sarah back to reality, reintroducing the conflict she thought was fading. Behind the excitement, the weight of that doubt loomed larger than before. As Sarah stared into Marcus's encouraging gaze, the challenge was laid bare. Muscling through both personal ambitions and familial expectations would be her true test. Caught between a new artistic journey and the weight of her familial obligations, Sarah felt the pulse of uncertainty rise once more. She had made a bold choice, but now she had to navigate the boundaries of her ambitions. Just before Sarah could grasp what to do next, the crackling tension in the room seemed to thicken, and a flash of revelation sparked. Would she truly dare to confront the reality of her desires, putting everything on the line again? As that possibility flickered with both fear and promise in her mind, Sarah realized she stood at a pivotal crossroads, and soon she would have to confront not just her ambitions, but also the perceptions of those she loved. The next chapter loomed ahead, pulling her to finally face pivotal truths about herself and her relationships. Would the strength of her newfound resolve hold as she faced not just her art, but the expectations imposed upon her by those closest to her? The very air felt electrified, charged with a tension that made Sarah's skin prickle. Marcus, with his open enthusiasm, stood oblivious to the brewing storm at her back. It was as if a spotlight had hit the room. She felt both exposed and lifted, her insecurities stark against the warmth of encouragement that surrounded her. Yet Rebecca's critical presence loomed, a shadow that loomed over her once flourishing seed of ambition. "What's this about, Sarah?" Rebecca's tone was sharp, yet the inquiry seemed laden with layers of concern that failed to disguise skepticism. "You and art? Have you really thought this through?" Sarah swallowed hard as she felt the roots of her courage shake. The impulse to defend her desires mingled with the fear that had kept her silent for far too long. She glanced at Lily, who was lost in her own world, sharing with Marcus the vibrant colors of their artwork, and her heart swelled with a conflicting mixture of pride and anxiety. "I have thought it through, Mom," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "And this is important, for me and for Lily." Rebecca's expression remained unchanged, impenetrable and critical. "You mean to put your own desires before raising your daughter? A starving artist's dream won't put food on the table, Sarah. I just want you to be practical." The weight of those words crashed over Sarah like a tidal wave, and in that moment, everything teetered on the brink of breakdown. She could feel the tension crackling at her fingertips, begging to be released. But how? She had never confronted her mother directly, harboring all the years of frustration bottled up inside her, afraid of igniting an explosion that could tear apart their already fractured connection. "I don't want to just survive," Sarah shot back, her initial hesitation melting away. "I want to create. I want Lily to see that it's okay to dream, that you can pursue your passions and build something from them." Lily popped her head up, her innocent eyes wide, absorbing the commotion. A flicker of panic shot through Sarah. She hadn't meant to involve her daughter in this fray. Yet Lily's gaze, filled with trust and admiration, broke through Sarah's wavering resolve. "Mommy, you're the best artist," Lily declared, her little proud voice cutting through the tension. A swell of warmth expanded in Sarah's chest. There it was, the very purpose that fueled her ambition, the essence that clarified every choice she made. Not just art for herself, but art for the woman Lily would ultimately become. The dichotomy of motherhood and career that had hung like a guillotine above her could transform into a malleable balance, a notion that surged with newfound determination. "Why can't both exist?" Sarah asked, her tone shifting from defensive to inquisitive. "Why does it have to be one or the other?" "Because life isn't easy, and your fantasies might lead to disappointment," Rebecca replied, her voice heavy with concern, but laced with a protective undertone. "But what if this isn't a fantasy?" Sarah countered, the newfound energy propelling her forward. "What if it's the bridge to a better life?" Silence enveloped the room, thick and palpable. Sarah saw the hesitation in Rebecca's eyes. She understood the fear of failure that spread like a fog. It had clouded her own vision for years, but she was ready to break free from its grasp. She had a chance to redefine not just her role as an artist, but as a mother who instilled courage within her child. Marcus stepped closer, his voice steady. "The art world demands vulnerability, Sarah, but it also offers connection and community. This work can empower you, help you embrace both passion and responsibility." "It can inspire," Sarah echoed, her conviction sharpening. A floodgate opened within, chipping away at the inertia that had stunted her growth. "Maybe it's time I create my own opportunities, regardless of the fear encapsulated in our history." She cast a quick glance at her mother. The history might indeed cast shadows, but it could also illuminate paths untread. "I want to confront that fear, Mom, not just for me, but for us," Sarah finished, her heart thrumming with both dread and excitement. Rebecca's expression softened for the briefest moment before the familiar barriers returned. "Just, please, think everything through." "I will," Sarah promised, "but I'm going to do it on my terms." As she turned back to Marcus, ideas began swirling in her head, painting over the doubts that threatened to entrap her in inertia. It was time to actualize her creative potential, possibly even submit a proposal for a local gallery, an opportunity that beckoned tantalizingly close yet felt impossibly daunting. Marcus caught her eye. "Are you ready to chart that course?" Feeling the weight of expectation on her shoulders, Sarah nodded. The next step would require fortitude, one that she would not undertake alone. Just as the fresh resolve began weaving through her thoughts, a realization dawned. This journey through the art world would expose her vulnerabilities and challenge her relationships in ways she couldn't yet anticipate. Would her newfound resolve withstand the forces that pushed against her, ready to challenge the very fabric of her artistic journey? The sound of her own heartbeat pulsed in her ears as Sarah stepped away from the confrontation, determined yet trembling. She realized she was standing at a precipice. The gap between disappointment and fulfillment was widening as her vision of the future crystallized. Taking a deep breath, she embraced the uncertainty. It felt like drifting on a river, twirling along a current that could take her anywhere. "Okay, what's the first move?" she asked Marcus, her voice barely a whisper but filled with a burgeoning energy. He smiled as if sensing her shift from doubt to resolve. "Let's work on your portfolio, showcase your best pieces, the ones that resonate with your soul," Marcus suggested, his enthusiasm infectious. "Art is all about connection. You need to reflect your voice." As they moved to a quieter corner, Sarah felt the thrill of progress. She picked up a brush, its handle warm in her palm. It had been too long since she'd allowed herself to immerse in creation, and the colors on her palette looked seductive and inviting. Each stroke felt like reclaiming pieces of herself that had been stifled by the weight of practicality and expectations. Lost in the rhythm of her brush across canvas, Sarah began to notice something stirring within her. Each splash of color ignited ancient dreams, weaving her aspirations and fears into a tapestry that reflected the duality of her existence, mother and artist, dreamer and realist. Yet there was an undeniable tension simmering beneath her artistic fervor. She found herself glancing at Rebecca, whose unwavering gaze was like a granite wall. The internal battle was far from over. Would the shield of protective concern crack under the weight of her artistic expression, or would it reinforce the struggle? As she painted, Sarah allowed herself to explore her long-buried thoughts. Doubts crept back in. Would her work be enough? Would she face the inevitable rejection? Yet with every brushstroke, she envisioned Lily, her little face brimming with belief, reminding her that this was about more than art. It began to transcend her. After hours of pouring mixed emotions onto the canvas, she stepped back to evaluate her creation. The vibrant hues blended chaos and calm. It was a reflection of her journey thus far. For the first time, she felt proud, yet a sense of vulnerability spiraled. "Wow," Marcus breathed, walking up behind her and studying the piece. "You've captured something raw here. Your fear, your hope, all in one." "Is it enough?" Sarah whispered, the anxiety creeping back in again. A part of her still longed for validation, not just from him, but from her mother who had shaped so much of her narrative. "Of course, it's a starting point. You need to take it to the next level. A gallery proposal is your next step," Marcus encouraged, but Sarah felt a shiver run through her. The thought of submitting her work pushed her right back to the shadows lurking in her mind. What if they don't see what I see? What if it's not good enough? The words fell heavy from her lips, entangled in self-doubt. "Then it's your job to let them see," Marcus replied, his gaze unwavering. "You have to own your vision, be unapologetic about how you express yourself. Art's power lies in its ability to evoke feelings. If it speaks to you, it can speak to others." The reality of his words hit Sarah like a gust of wind. Perhaps this was the moment that would define her, an opportunity to shake off the chains of not enough and step into her authentic self. She took a deep breath, letting the weight of decision settle in her core. "All right," she breathed out, feeling the resolve flooding her as she looked at Marcus. "I'll draft the proposal, I'll show them my work." But as they turned together towards the future, a flicker of doubt remained, coiling around her heart. Was she truly ready to declare herself an artist, to lay bare her soul and risk rejection? Just then, the door swung open, and Lily burst through the threshold, eyes sparkling. "Mommy, look, I made something for you." Sarah's heart melted as her daughter held out a crumpled piece of paper, a radiant drawing bursting with colors. In that moment, everything crystallized. Lily was watching her every move, absorbing lessons not just about art, but about courage, resilience, and owning one's path. "Can you help me show it to everyone?" Lily asked, her voice full of innocent expectation. With a smile that felt like stepping into a new dawn, Sarah nodded. "Absolutely, my love." Yet just as joy pulled at her, the fear of confronting Rebecca loomed over her like a storm cloud. The real test was not just accepting her journey but sharing it with the world, her journey as an artist and a mother both. Could she convince Rebecca to embrace this part of her life, or would it remain an ongoing battle? The question lingered in the air, exhilarating and terrifying at once. What awaited them on the other side of that confrontation? The next morning, Sarah woke before dawn, the pale light filtering through her curtains, illuminating the vibrant mess of her studio. The air was tinged with the scent of turpentine and creativity, and for the first time in years, the prospects of the day pulsed with possibility. Rising with a newfound determination, she brewed a cup of coffee, her restless mind racing through the tasks ahead. As she sipped the hot brew, her gaze wandered to the canvas that now held her soul in a riot of colors. It wasn't just paint, it was her declaration of intent, a heartbeat on the surface, reminding her that she had gone beyond mere trial. Sarah needed to push herself further, her instincts urging her to create an even deeper connection with her work, a resonance that would echo not only through the gallery walls, but into her family life. Lily's innocent drawing sat on the edge of the table, a burst of color that rivaled her own creation. Each line and swirl told a story, of joy, of whimsy, unencumbered by doubt. Sarah couldn't help but smile. Her daughter was an embodiment of the courage she struggled to muster. At that moment, she was not just a mother, but also a muse, guiding Sarah towards authentic expression. "Today's the day," Sarah muttered to herself, glancing nervously at her phone. She had promised Marcus a draft of her proposal, a plan that now felt both exhilarating and terrifying. In the quiet of the morning, the simplicity of reaching out loomed large, shining a spotlight on her fears. Taking a deep breath, she retrieved her laptop from the cluttered desk, where inspiration mingled with chaos. Each keystroke became a meditation. She had to lay bare her motivations, the passion, the heartache, the tug-of-war between responsibility and desire. Yet as she wrote, her mind drifted. Each word spiraled towards an inevitable confrontation with Rebecca. Would her mother understand the sacrifices? Would she see Sarah's dreams as worthy? The clock ticked relentlessly, nudging the minutes into hours, until finally her proposal began to take shape. She felt a rush of empowerment as she encapsulated her vision, her aspirations, and her journey into those pages. Then, without thinking, she hit send. It was a small act, really, but for Sarah it felt monumental, a leap into the unknown, where vulnerability triumphed over fear. She stared at the screen for a moment, wondering if she could summon the strength to face her mother after this. Lily's laughter echoed from the other room, pulling Sarah from her swirling thoughts. The sound warmed her chest, lifting her spirits momentarily. She made her way to her daughter, who was lost in a world of crayons and paper. "Do you want to show your drawing to Grandma today?" Sarah asked, feeling a glimmer of hope ignite within her. "Yeah, and I want to show her your painting too," Lily exclaimed earnestly, her enthusiasm washing over Sarah like a soothing balm. "Let's do it." With a new wave of resolve, Sarah swiftly picked up both the artwork and her daughter, and together they made their way to the living room. As they entered the room, Rebecca sat in her usual chair, brows furrowed as she skimmed through an article about the latest financial trends. At the sight of her daughter and granddaughter approaching, she put down the paper, a flicker of curiosity crossing her face. "Mom, we wanted to share something with you," Sarah said, her words tumbling over one another, the tightness in her chest merging with anticipation. Lily practically bounced with excitement as she unveiled her masterpiece. "Look, Grandma, I made this for Mommy." Rebecca's expression transformed, caught somewhere between surprise and admiration. As she leaned in to examine the drawing, Sarah held her breath, waiting to see what would spill from Rebecca's lips. "Wow, this is really colorful, Lily. I love the energy." Her mother's voice was softer than usual, revealing absolute sincerity. Feeling emboldened, Sarah gently unfurled her painting next. "And this is my latest work, inspired by your little artist," she said, her voice trembling with apprehension. Rebecca studied it for a long moment, the room heavy with unspoken words. I can see you've put a lot of heart into this, Rebecca finally said, her tone shifting as her gaze softened. But before Sarah could process the potentially positive response, Rebecca's expression faltered, doubt pooling behind her eyes. What will you do with it? Is this really where you want to take your life? The question struck Sarah like a thunderclap, forcing her to confront the harsh realities that loomed. Mom, I want to share it with the world, she asserted, her voice gaining strength, spurred by the spirit of both her daughter and her own ambition. Rebecca's eyes narrowed slightly, as if weighing the sincerity of her daughter's statement against the weight of their shared history. Are you sure? The question hung in the air, freighted with concern and expectation. Caught in the moment, Sarah realized she was standing at a crossroads. Could she embrace who she truly was and fight for her dreams? Or would she retreat into the shadows of others' expectations? The tension weighed heavily between them, a tug of war, as Sarah prepared to defend her aspirations against the very real risks of vulnerability and possible rejection. One thing was clear: decisions made today would echo far beyond this living room. The silence stretched, heavy with unexpressed fears and lingering doubts. Sarah's heart raced violently, yet from the depths of her trepidation arose a flicker of determination. Here was her chance for clarity, not only for herself, but for her daughter, whose bright future hung in the balance. Mom, I'm not asking for your approval to paint, Sarah began, her voice steady yet resonant with emotion. I'm showing you who I am. I want to inspire Lily to embrace her passions without fear. I want her to know she can dream boldly. Rebecca's features softened as she processed her daughter's fervent words. It's not that I don't believe in you, sweetheart. I've seen you struggle. Her voice faltered slightly, as if revealing a vulnerability born of love. I just worry. I know you do, Sarah interrupted gently. But what if I'm destined to find something meaningful through my art? For years, I thought being practical was the only way to be a good mother. But what if it's not enough? Lily watched the exchange, her innocent eyes wide, the gravity of the moment seemingly lost on her. She sensed the crackling tension, but also the potential for a breakthrough. Mommy, you're good at this. You should show everyone. The child's unfiltered enthusiasm reverberated, and Sarah felt a tremor of warmth spread through her resolve. Show everyone, Sarah repeated slowly. That's right. It's about sharing my journey and inviting others in, not just for me but for us. The realization blossomed. She was not merely pursuing her art, she was cultivating a legacy for Lily. Rebecca's gaze shifted, softening further. But the world can be harsh, Sarah. What if it doesn't work out? Then I will try again, Sarah affirmed, her voice echoing with newfound strength. I want to teach Lily that passion and purpose are worth risking, that even rejections can lead to growth. As the words flowed, clarity pierced through the chaos within her, illuminating the way forward. Seeing her daughter's tenacity, Rebecca took a deep breath. If you truly believe this is who you are, I will try to support you. I don't want to stifle your creativity. I just want you to be prepared. Sarah felt a rush of gratitude wash over her, the weight of doubt beginning to lighten. I appreciate that, Mom. I really do. But this is a path I must forge myself, and I'm ready to embrace it. You'll go through struggles and setbacks, Rebecca warned softly. You're in for a tough fight. I'm not afraid of the fight, Sarah assured her, her heart racing at the realization. She finally understood that the challenges she faced were merely stepping stones toward her transformation. With one last unwavering glance at her mother, Sarah turned to Lily, whose bright eyes shone with pride. Sweetheart, do you really want to be part of this journey? It won't always be easy, but we can do it together. Yes, I want to paint with you and show everyone our art, Lily replied, her voice filled with unrestrained joy. At that moment, everything crystallized for Sarah. This was not just about her desire, it was about the legacy of courage she aimed to foster for Lily, and with that, she realized she was not merely stepping into her identity as an artist, but also embracing her role as a mother who empowers her child to transcend ordinary boundaries. As this truth settled in her heart, Sarah felt a shift, a sense of solid confidence and recognized competence, as layers of self-doubt disappeared. She was establishing a place for herself, merging her art with the life she cherished. The decision was palpable, resonating within her veins as she turned to face the canvas in her studio. A calloused hand rose to the palette. Each color seemed brighter than before, and as the strokes flowed effortlessly across the canvas, Sarah felt every heartbeat synchronize with her aspirations. The colors blended into vivid scenes that expressed not only her struggles, but all that she could achieve. Lily watched in awe as her mom created, the light in her eyes reflecting back the hopes they both carried. This partnership wasn't merely about creating art, it was about forming unbreakable bonds through shared dreams. With each brushstroke, Sarah communicated her journey, a testament to overcoming adversity and seizing the beauty of life. She poured every ounce of her identity into that canvas, feeling a sense of fulfillment wrap around her heart, a reward far richer than mere validation. As she stepped back to admire her work, someone entered the studio, the familiar knock cutting through her moment of reflection. It was Marcus, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I love the energy in here. How's the proposal coming along?" With her heart brimming with pride and determination, Sarah turned to him, a newfound spark igniting in her soul. "It's in motion," she said confidently, "and I'm ready to show the world what we've created." As the two exchanged ideas and laughter echoed through the studio, Sarah could finally see that she was no longer just an artist. She was a mother carving an artistic path, embodying the courage to reclaim her identity and inspire not just herself, but the next generation. This was the moment she had yearned for, the realization that she could achieve her aspirations and honor her commitments as a mother. The tension had now melted into a potent energy that fueled her art and life alike, a metamorphosis solidified through profound dedication to self and family. Each brushstroke was a testament, a reminder that true fulfillment lay in courageously pursuing one's passions while nurturing the bonds of love and legacy that tied them together. Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of the world lift from her shoulders. Here was her journey, vulnerable yet courageous, colorful yet complicated, and finally, she was ready to embrace it fully. Now it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our journey of transformation. Comment below your reactions and theories about this empowering conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second. Your support can inspire others to pursue their dreams.